This slide introduces the topic built-up rate for excavation works. We will learn how to calculate the cost of excavation work by looking at the main elements involved in estimating, such as material, machinery, labor, profit, and overhead. This slide shows the three main types of earthwork activities involved in construction. First is excavation, where soil is removed to form trenches, foundations, or site levels. Second is removal or disposal, where excess soil is transported away from the site. Third is filling, where selected material is brought in and compacted to achieve the required ground level. The images illustrate how machinery is used in each stage to move and manage soil efficiently on site. This slide breaks down the three main earthwork activities into their methods or material types. For excavation, the work can be done either manually, using hand tools, or mechanically using excavators. For removal and disposal, soil can also be transported out manually or by machines such as dump trucks. For filling, the material used may come from soil already available on site, or it may require imported materials such as hardcore. These distinctions help us understand how different methods affect cost, time, and productivity on site. This slide shows an example of how to estimate the cost of excavation work carried out by hand. In this case, the excavation is for a column footing, starting from the reduced level with a maximum depth not exceeding 2 meters. We are calculating the cost per cubic meter of excavation. The data provided includes the labor cost for unskilled workers, which is 100 ringgit per day. The labor constant is 4.5 hours per cubic meter, meaning 1 cubic meter of soil requires 4.5 labor hours to complete. We also include the cost for planking and strutting at 5 ringgit per cubic meter. Finally, an overhead and profit percentage of 15% is added to the total. To get the final excavation cost, we combine the labor cost with the profit and overhead. This is summarized in the formula shown: total cost equals labor cost plus profit and overhead. In this example, we are looking at how to estimate the cost of excavation carried out by hand. The task involves excavating a pit to receive a column, starting from the reduced level, with a maximum depth not exceeding 2 meters. The unit of measurement for this work is per cubic meter. The data provided shows the key cost components. First, we have unskilled labor, which costs 100 ringgit per day. The labor constant is 4.5 hours per cubic meter, meaning that each cubic meter of excavation requires 4.5 hours of labor. We also include an additional 5 ringgit per cubic meter for planking and strutting, which covers temporary support during excavation. Finally, we add 15% for overhead and profit. All of these values are combined to determine the total cost. As highlighted at the bottom, the formula we use is total cost equals labor cost plus profit and overhead. This helps us ensure that all labor expenses and business margins are included in the final rate. In this second example, we are estimating the cost of excavation using a machine-owned excavator. The excavation work here is for reducing the ground level, with a maximum depth not exceeding 1 meter. The unit of measurement is again per cubic meter. The data listed shows all the cost components involved when using a machine. First, we have the capital cost of the excavator itself. The initial purchase price is 180,000 ringgit, and the machine has a useful life of 5 years. To calculate the annual ownership cost, we also consider interest at 10%, insurance at 5%, repairs and maintenance at 10%, and transport to the site at 5%. At the end of its life, the excavator still has a scrap value of 15,000 ringgit, which will reduce the overall cost. Next, we look at the operating costs. These include diesel consumption, 6 liters per hour at 3 ringgit, and 8 sen per liter, and lubrication oil at 14 liters per week, priced at 45 ringgit per liter. We also include the operator's wage, which is 180 ringgit per day. For calculation purposes, we assume excavation work is carried out 200 days per year. Once we have all these values, we combine them using the formula shown. Total cost equals capital cost plus operating cost plus profit and overhead. This ensures that all expenses related to owning, operating, and managing the excavator are included in the final excavation rate. This slide shows how we calculate the capital cost of an excavator. We begin with the initial cost of 180,000 ringgit. Over 5 years, we add the ownership expenses, 10% interest, 5% insurance, 10% repair and maintenance, and 5% transport to site. These add up to 342,000 ringgit. We then deduct the scrap value of 15,000 ringgit, giving us a net capital cost of 327,000 ringgit. Spreading this over 5 years gives a yearly capital cost of 65,400 ringgit. Assuming the excavator works 200 days a year, or 1,600 hours, we divide the yearly cost by 1,600. This gives a capital cost of 40 ringgit and 88 sen per hour. So 40 ringgit and 88 sen per hour is the cost of owning the machine before adding fuel, operator cost, and profit. This slide shows the operating cost of the excavator. We add 3 main daily expenses: the driver's wage of 180 ringgit per day, diesel cost of 147 ringgit and 84 sen per day, and lubrication cost of 105 ringgit per day. Altogether, the machine costs 432 ringgit and 84 sen per day to operate. Dividing this by 8 working hours gives an operating cost of 54 ringgit and 10 sen per hour. Next, we combine this with the capital cost we calculated earlier. 40 ringgit and 88 sen plus 54 ringgit and 10 sen, giving a total machine cost of 94 ringgit and 98 sen per hour. Since the excavator produces 12 cubic meters per hour, we divide 94 ringgit and 98 sen by 12. This gives a final excavation cost of 7 ringgit and 90 sen per cubic meter. This final step adds profit and overhead to the excavation rate. We take the operating cost of 7 ringgit and 90 sen per cubic meter and add 15% for profit and overhead. 15% works out to 1 ringgit and 20 sen per cubic meter. When we add both values, the total excavation cost becomes 9 ringgit and 10 sen per cubic meter. So the complete formula remains: total cost equals capital cost plus operating cost plus profit and overhead. This example shows how to estimate excavation cost when the machine is rented. The task is to excavate a trench for the foundation up to 2 meters deep. The excavator used has a 3/8 cubic meter bucket with an output of 9 cubic meters per hour. The data needed includes the daily rental cost of 650 ringgit, which already covers transport to site. We also include the operator's wage of 180 ringgit per day, fuel consumption of 5 liters per hour at 3 ringgit and 8 sen per liter, and lubrication at 12 liters per week at 45 ringgit per liter. Once all these costs are calculated, we apply the same formula. Total cost equals capital cost plus operating cost plus profit and overhead. This allows us to determine the final excavation rate per cubic meter using a rented machine. This slide shows the calculation for excavation using a rented machine. First, the rental cost, 650 ringgit per day divided by 8 working hours, gives a rental rate of 81 ringgit and 25 sen per hour. Next, we calculate the operating cost per day. The operator costs 180 ringgit, diesel costs 123.2 ringgit, and lubrication oil costs 90 ringgit. Altogether, the daily operating cost is 393.2 ringgit. Dividing this by 8 hours gives $49.15 per hour. To get the total machine cost per hour, we add the rental and operating costs, $81.25 plus $49.15 equals $130.40 per hour. This is the hourly cost of excavation using a rented excavator. Now, we calculate the final excavation rate using the rented excavator. The machine produces 9 cubic meters per hour, and earlier, we calculated the total machine cost as 130 ringgit and 40 sen per hour. So, the basic excavation cost per cubic meter is 130.40 ringgit divided by 9, which gives 14.50 ringgit per cubic meter. Next, we add 15% for profit and overhead. 15% works out to 2 ringgit and 20 sen per cubic meter. Adding both values gives the final excavation cost of 16 ringgit and 70 sen per cubic meter. This completes the calculation, following the formula. Total cost equals capital cost plus operating cost plus profit and overhead. Thank you!